Last week we told you about a crisis that needs our attention. Refugees are fleeing the Middle East into Europe because of the fear of their lives. ISIS has run hundreds of thousands of people out of their home country because of maybe their faith as Christians, or maybe because they're a different Muslim sect. Families are being torn apart and murdered because they refuse to deny their faith in Christ. With that kind of violence happening, over 4 million refugees have migrated to surrounding European countries looking for asylum. There was a story I recently read, maybe you did too, of a husband, his wife, and his 2 children. They fled Syria in hopes to build a new life, a life free from fear. The fear that at any moment ISIS troops would invade their homes and end their lives. The couple packed up all that they could, and took their 2 little boys and went to Turkey. When they finally arrived in Turkey, they were met with overcrowded refugee camps. With so many people in one area, it's hard to find unoccupied shelter and other supplies because these countries are doing their very best to accommodate everyone. They weren't prepared for a large amount of people to enter their borders as countries. At that point, the family tried to find a different country to call home. They thought Greece might be a better option. They heard of boats going out of Bodrum, Turkey, going across the Mediterranean and into Greece. So they set sail in a small boat with each other and really a mission of desperation. After about an hour at sea, the waves grew stronger and larger and the boat was capsized. The family held on to the boat for dear life. The father held on to the boat with one arm and the family on the other. As time passed, the waves grew stronger and his arms grew weaker. One by one, each family member slid off the side of the boat and into the sea. After 3 hours floating in agony of his lost family, the father was rescued by the Greek Coast Guard. Sometime later, the body of his 3-year-old son, Aylin, washed up on a Turkish beach. Families like Aylin's could have been saved if there were more shelters, more supplies, and most of all, hope. That's why we're partnering with our sister church, Vienna Christian Center, to help provide shelter, basic needs, and Bibles to the refugees. Here's a look into what VCC is doing right now to meet this crisis.
Since the beginning of this year, we have seen some incredible challenges and also opportunities for us to share the gospel like never before in the nation of Austria. Over the last few months, you've been watching the news of this immigrant crisis, the refugees that have been flooding into our continent. In fact, we have not seen these numbers since the close of World War II. It's an unprecedented day for Europe. In Austria alone, we've seen well over 100,000 that have crossed our borders, and from that number, 65,000 have officially registered for asylum status. We didn't just start refugee ministry last week. We started several years ago. We believe that God led us to begin reaching out to asylum homes, and because of that, we are positioned and ready to be able to make a major spiritual impact in these days. We have already seen fruit. We're not just going, but we're going and making disciples. We're seeing fruit because we're not only sharing compassion ministry, but we're sharing the gospel. We're sharing New Testaments. We're sharing our faith. We're having meaningful conversations that are leading these refugees to Christ. In fact, just last weekend in our celebration service, we had over 20 refugees who were here in their own will. They desired to be here because they've made a decision for Christ or they are seeking Christ. So you can see that God's giving us at Vienna Christian Center an open door in these days to really make a difference right here in our city.
On November 15th, we're calling it our Kingdom Builders Impact Weekend. Why? It's because you and I are kingdom builders, and we can make an impact in the lives of those that are desperate. I'm believing that we can meet our God-sized impact goal. The goal is $125,000. What we're believing is that we can partner with Vienna Christian Center and partner with others to make a difference. And I want to ask you to begin to pray, asking God what He would have you to do. I want to ask you to begin to set something aside. I want to ask everyone to do something, no matter how small, to do something to help those that are in this crisis. Which touches me right now is that these are believers, many of them. Yes, many aren't, and yes, there's an opportunity to reach them, but many are fleeing because of their faith. You and I have an opportunity to help them, to give a blanket, to buy a pair of shoes, to feed them, to give them a meal, to give them a place to stay. Right now, they just need basic needs. And I'm asking you to do something. Maybe it's to give a meal. Maybe it's to give the amount that would cost to buy a blanket or a pair of shoes. Or maybe to help purchase the vehicle that would be needed to bring them back and forth to church. Whatever it is that you can do, I'm asking you to do something. Our goal again is $125,000. No gift is too big. If God would have you to do a substantial gift, I ask you to do that. And no gift is too small. Everything that you do will make a difference. But what I'm really asking is everybody will do something. And when we do, we'll make a major spiritual impact, not only here at home, but around the world with our brothers and sisters in Christ. God bless you.